has been happening today. Lukhanyo, a very good morning to you. What can you tell us about what is currently taking place out in Nasrec at the 5th ANC Policy Conference?
Alicia, good morning. Yes, second day of the ANC's Policy Conference, as you rightly point out, in Nasrec. Today, a little bit of breakfast briefings with the Minister of I think it's Trade and Industry, Rob Davis, who briefed the PBF this morning. And now I think they're in plenary, the delegates are in plenary, where those sessions are closed, unfortunately. So, there's nothing that we can report coming from those sessions. But day one was very interesting. We had President Jacob Zuma opening the conference yesterday morning. The delegates then had a plenary. And then late last night, the Secretary General of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, then briefed the media on the organizational report that he had presented to the organization. And there were a few issues in that report that basically pointed to an ANC that is, that's quite sick, if I can put it like that. But to break it down, the organizational report, I'm joined in studio by Professor Susan Boysen from the Wits School of Governance. Ma'am, thank you very much for joining us, and good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
We don't have a lot of time, so I just want to jump straight into the report, the organizational report that was tabled by the Secretary General last night. One of the things that he pointed out was a number of declines. If I can just quickly read something. 1.7 reads, since the 2009 general elections, our electoral performance has been on a decline. Between the general elections in 2014 and the local government elections in 2016, there was an accelerated decline. The word decline used many times over in this report. What does that tell you, firstly, about the state of the ANC today?
This is ANC that is really very sick, as you said. But the ANC, I think, is refusing to admit it into an emergency ward. They think what they're doing here at this conference can fix it. But we do not know yet. And we'll see from the persuasiveness of the resolutions that they adopt whether it will really cut the edge. But there are such important things that are mentioned that. And I think the crux is that issue of trust, the relationship of trust between the ANC and people that is broken. And there are so many people out there who I think really, and from research we see that, they really still would like to trust the ANC. They think, yes, it is a party that probably has an edge over other opposition parties. But increasingly they also say, we can combine that reverence we had for the liberation movement and the party post-liberation with our skepticism today that this is not the people whom we want to spend our money.
That issue of trust is also is mentioned also quite frequently. The one bullet point that the Secretary General mentioned says the growing trust deficit between the people and the movement. And then just the point below that, it says the decline in the ethics, values, and traditions of the movement. That is very scary.
That cuts so deep, and that goes there hand in hand with the trust issue. It's a serious confession there that the movement is not what it used to be. That is really not just declined in electoral support, but declined on that front too. And as the other point there also shows, it's lost its ideological perspective. Ideologically, it's not what it was anymore. Ethically, it's not what it was anymore. In terms of elections, it is nowhere near where it was at its 2004 peak. So this is really a serious movement, a serious decline in this movement. Exactly the words that he says that. The challenge is over to the delegates behind the closed door there. And we hear some of the leaders tell us confidentially that it's all smooth and sweet in there and consensual. Individual other delegates tell us that, not quite literally, but stones were flying in there yesterday.
These issues that we're seeing and the issues that are being reported on in this organizational report, isn't the ANC where it is today because largely that a large part of its membership, of its delegates that are here, don't really espouse the policies, the values, the ethics, the traditions of the ANC anymore. Therefore, there is a decline.
I really think there is a split, yes. The ANC, ideologically, in terms of its policies, are heading in one direction, and there is just a bigger and bigger gap opening between what the policies are and how much of it is being implemented, of course, is another related issue, and the needs on the ground. And people are struggling to get the two to match.
Okay. Based on that and what you're saying, there's a bullet point that says the poor quality of the branches and the membership in general.
Oh, I wonder who is to blame for that. You know, they really have to look at themselves and say, how did we allow that to happen? But it's ethics and the ethos, and then branch, we know money exchanges hands and positions are negotiated, and there is so much inherent corruption at that branch level. Its branches are not that ideal little democratic cells on the ground. It is the base for much of the problems that we see in the ANC. And so they really have to try to get those branches in shape. And a good point would be to ensure, not like 5 years ago at Mangaung, that is really corruption in how the branches are constituted and elected and who gets what kind of representation at those branches. So we see in the ANC this need developing to get better monitoring of those branches. We have to see how serious they are in that. But one of the points that one of the delegates shared with me is that the ANC, one of the reasons why the ANC wants to expand its top 6 to top 8 or 9 probably, and possibly top 8 and get one additional deputy president and one additional secretary general is, for example, to keep tabs on the branches. But an interesting side vision is also that they envisage, according to information I have from the inside there, that this deputy president of the ANC would then also move into deputy presidency of the country in a more concentrated monitoring and evaluation function, and anticipating that that person, who is also deputy president of the ANC then, would have a higher status in the branches and on the ground, because this person would then also be a high office bearer in the country itself. So that is how they're anticipating, and obviously still anticipating that they will be in power after 2019.
These issues and these declines and these separations from the ANC's traditions and values didn't happen overnight. So basically to fix them will probably also not happen overnight.
It could take a very, very long time, because there has, in the last decade, at least the last decade, possibly more, there hasn't been this culture of enforcing discipline, enforcing ethics. I remember vividly a National General Council held in Port Elizabeth in the year 2000, lamenting the breakdown in ethics of comrades, of branch members, etc.
That was 17 years ago.
That is, and the problem has only been getting worse.
What does all of this spell for us as a republic, as a country? Because the ANC has been leading, has been the ruling party for the last 23 years. What does this mean with the ANC in this state? What does this mean for us as a republic?
You know, it could be very fractious, very problematic going into the future, because the ANC could hang on to power if they are lucky at this stage, it seems, in 2019. But the ANC that will be in power then will not, despite all proceedings here, and even if proceedings here go in a right direction, and they take courageous disciplinary steps, measures, restore integrity committee, etc., and they're taking that ANC forward. It's going to take a long time also to get the spillover effect into government, into state institutions. It is this negative influences that we see in the ANC are widely diffused, and it could take many, many years to correct that.
Therefore, the policies and the resolutions and the decisions that are taken at this conference are critical for us as a country for the next 10 years. What would you like to see coming out of this conference?
No, yes, it is indeed a split in the road for the ANC, and I hope they are courageous enough to take a very tough direction that will give clear-cut restoration of ethics, not just in the movement, but because this movement is in power, largely, that they can take that forward into government, that they can be ruthless on their own organization, and that this would come out in this meeting here, that they can say, we cut out the bad parts, the rot, if you like, and go forward as a kind of purified, better, difficult word, but a purified ANC, a new ANC that can make people proud of it again. People are not proud of it.
All right, ma'am, I think that's a perfect place to end this conversation. Thank you very much. That was Professor Susan Boyson from the Wits School of Governance discussing, the organizational report that was tabled by ANC Secretary General Lugwede Mantashe to both the media as well as to delegates yesterday. For more on the policy conference, stay tuned, because we will be here at Nasrec and we're broadcasting from here from yesterday onwards, and we'll be here till the end on Thursday, and we'll continuously update you as news becomes available from inside the plenary. But for now, it's back to you in studio, Alicia.